Tuungane sote na tushereke pamoja ushindi kwa ukombozi wetu. Tujitoe wenyewe, tusimame pamoja kulinda uhuru na umoja wetu. Enyi Bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima. Tuungane sote tuimbe pamoja, kuenzi shikamano hatima yetu. Tujitoe wenyewe kupambana pamoja, uhuru na umoja vitawale. Enyi Bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima. Tuungane sote na tujibidishe kutoa kilicho bora kwa Afrika, chimbuko la wanadamu, chemchemi ya utamaduni, tumaini letu wakati wa mafarakano. Enyi Bwana na binti wa Afrika, mwili wa jua, mwili wa anga, tuifanye Afrika mti wa uzima.
I will now take a reading from Peace Building in a Globalized World by Liu Cheng and Egon Spiegel. And the title is Peace as Non-Violence, the UN Decade Culture of Peace. At the beginning of the new millennium, the United Nations started the decade with the precedent-setting title of Culture of Peace and Non-Violence for the Children of the World. The decade lasted from 2001 to 2010. Following on from this, the task is to continue and make deeper the progress achieved during these years, especially by developing peace science in the form of peace research, peace education, and peace activism. This involves motivating and initiating non-governmental peace movements, pressurizing governments to support peace activities, and to act in accordance with the principles of peace building. To do this, we need to offer peace studies and study peace in all the complexity of discipline linked with many other academic disciplines. Through all of these, the initiatives have to be internalized and to follow the understanding of peace in the meaning set out by the United Nations and to develop it further. Peace, in the opinion of the UN, is only thinkable as non-violence. Indeed, it makes no sense to add non-violence after postulating peace. Non-violence is a tautological expression of peace. Obviously, in wording the aims of the decade, the UN saw a necessity to make sure that in its perspective, peace can be understood only as non-violence. Therefore, the UN describes peace as non-violence in all activities working towards the global culture of peace have to recognize this. This postulate is a very high ethical standard, but based on our willingness and abilities, and especially in our daily experience, it is in fact very realistic. Thank you very much for listening. Welcome one and all to Global Peace Studies for Sustainable Development in Africa, where we discuss pertinent issues of peace and sustainability around the world and across Africa. It's a pleasure having you today, and we've got a very important theme ahead of us. As you all know, our friend, colleague, intellectual, Howard Richards passed away. And we have some speakers here who will lead us in our tributes to him. Thank you all for coming. And I would like now to ask if we could just pause for 1 minute to remember Howard Richards. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. As you probably all know, Howard Richards has been a very committed person to global peace and to African studies. I know some people know him much better than I do, but I've been privileged to work with Howard Richards. And for the past 3 years, he has been a regular participant in our global peace sessions that are held every Wednesday. He has actually made presentations twice. He has also contributed chapters, and in fact, 2 of his articles will be published soon by Springer International. It's sad that he couldn't see his publications, but this is understandable because we believe that death is sure to happen, sad though it may be. He's been really a very good friend, also of mine. And actually, before he passed on, he sent to me a book, Economic Theory and Community Development, Why Putting Community First is Essential to Our Survival, featuring South Africa's Community Work Program. And he wrote this book with the assistance of Gavin Anderson, and it's a pleasure having you, Gavin Anderson. And here is the book, just in case, I know nobody is doubting this, but this is quite true. And I'm so grateful. This is the living memory amongst many other publications that he left behind. And so we are going to ask our speakers today. I'm not sure that everybody is here, but we can begin with those who are around. And do I see Dr. Evelyn Lindner here? Yeah. Okay, and Dr. Linda Hartling. I will ask them actually to introduce themselves in relation to their relationship and interactions with Howard Richards. I'm going also to ask also Dr. Ella Gandhi, and of course also Peter Barras, who probably needs no introduction. But maybe we start with Dr. Evelyn Lindner, if you are there, please. I don't seem to see her. Dr. Linda Hartling.
Thank you, George. I'm here. I'm going to say that I suspect that Evelyn is trying to make her way to this meeting, doing whatever she has to do to be here, because I know she wants to be here. I'm Linda Hartling. I'm the director of the World Dignity University and the Human Dignity and Humiliation Studies community. And what's so wonderful about being here is to be with all of you who knew Howard and who are with us in this work for dignity in the world, like he worked for dignity in the world. And it's amazing to see some of you that I know by your names, but I have not seen you in person. It's really great to be with you, even in this sad time of losing a pillar of our dignity community. I'm in Portland, Oregon. It's about 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm talking a little softly so I don't wake up the whole house. But I just felt it is crucially important that I'm here with you to say how much we valued and treasured our work with Howard. Not only did he work with us to put together that book that you just showed us, George, that was an inspiration for our way of working with people in the world to make our community inclusive and accessible. And his work was a foundation of our economic thinking about being a type of gift economy, an economy where we share the time and effort that we have that we can put in to working for dignity in the world. I wanted to say how much I appreciated Howard's ability to walk the talk. He, I think most of us would agree, was an absolute genius of his work, of his efforts, of his ability to communicate to all of us the importance of how we engage each other in an economy of dignity, an economy of love. So there's not enough words for me to say how much he gave to our community. I know Janet Gerson is here and she might say a few words, but I think it's important for us to remember that we are doing our best to carry his work forward into the world by walking the talk of his work, his words in his book, in his efforts in his life, and all that he has done. And he is one of our heroes. So I'm going to turn it back over to you, George, but maybe Janet Gerson can step in for Evelyn Lindner, who is probably having technical difficulties, to say some words. Would that be okay with you, George?
Yes, it's fine. It's fine. And Janet, you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda. I'm so honored to be here with all of you, who many of you have worked more closely with Howard than I had the privilege to do. I had that book too, among others, because he also had books published through the Dignity Press, which Linda and Evelyn are I'm coming up with words I shouldn't use, but the dedicated, unpaid labor, underappreciated free work that many of us in this field know about. So gratitude to you and Dignity Press for making Howard's work available to all of us. And as I think there are many more people, I think I just want to say how inspired I was by Howard's work across continents, from Latin America to Africa to Michigan and the United States, and how it's so gratifying to be here in this global network where there's so many people I've had the privilege to meet through International Peace Research Association, through International Institute on Peace Education, hello, Maria Elena Lopez and others, and Diana and Marita Munoz, and of course all the people that you brought together here, George, including, you know, through the work of Lester and this network with Egon and etc. So let me pass it on to the people who know much more. And of course, Peter, you just like lit a spark under this and kept us informed, and I'm very grateful. We all are grateful to be together here. And also I want to mention Catherine Oda Hoppers, who I don't know if she even remembers me, but she's been part of the Betty Reardon's network, Women Working for Peace and Security, human dignity, human security through a gendered lens. So back to you, George. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janet. Now that you've mentioned Peter, Peter Barras, would you please go next? And then we go to Ella Gandhi, and then we proceed that way. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, I will be very quick then. I think the AI has made me a doctor in the announcement. I never went past what we call high school here. After my year in colonial education in 1964 and returning to the States, everything was a grotesque lie. So I'm nowhere near my rank that AI has so generously accorded me. I just wanted to say, I met Howard online by email in 2008. And about 10 years later, I sent him a manuscript. And to my astonishment, he invited me to visit him in Chile. And I spent a week or a little more there with him. And I had scraped together a bunch of writings about this, which I will not read to you. But suffice to say, we walked out of his front door, his front gate, and it was about a quarter mile into the main road where the village was. And we stopped 4 or 5 times. Everyone that we met on the street knew him. And of course, he was talking with them in Spanish, so I had no idea what was going on. And he was carrying a small bundle of plastic fly swatters. And when we got up to the street corner, there was a man there selling fly swatters, and he gave this man this bundle of plastic fly swatters. And I learned later that the entire street, not just his frontage, but the entire street in that neighborhood was kept spotlessly clean. And it had something to do with his participation in the economy. He was living the economy that he has promoted all these years. And the other thing is that he said, what matters is the survival and happiness of life. And that will be made possible, if it is not already too late for it to be possible, by the collective reconstruction of culture. He never spoke disparagingly or with blame about the people that are normally ascribed as the cause of our problems. He went beyond that and below that to what he called basic cultural structures. And he was absolutely clear about this. I already miss him terribly. And thank you so much for this wonderful remembrance. I'll stop there.
Thank you very much indeed, Peter. And as Peter would say, that was invited to this network by Howard Richards. So it's a great, great honor indeed for actually both of you. And now I would like to ask Professor Ella Gandhi, who was here actually not long ago with Howard Richards making a presentation at Global Peace Studies. Nice to see you again. Ella Gandhi, could you please also share your own experience and pay tribute to Howard Richards? Thanks.
Thank you so much. I too have no titles. No, not a doctor, not a professor, just Miss Gandhi or just Ela. Much better. I owe thanks to Catherine Odura Hoppers for introducing me to Howard Richard. I hadn't known him before Catherine began to have uh, conferences, and she invited me to her conference and introduced me to Howard. So in paying tribute to Howard, I'm reminded of so many wonderful, admirable qualities, his resilience in the face of so much of physical trauma he suffered over such a long period, his perseverance in continuing to write such thought-provoking books, articles, and pieces of gems that he circulated, and his enormous spirit to bring about constructive change, not just in Chile, but in the world. What a larger-than-life personality he had. Now, where does one start speaking about his enormous contribution? So having struggled with this question, I decided to focus on 3 attributes that have particularly impressed me, and I believe are so important for the present time. So the first one is his ability to combine theory with practice, walking the talk, as somebody said earlier. The second is his extensive reading, which gave him an edge over academic understanding and discussions of the issues facing the world today. He simplified everything because of his extensive knowledge. And the third is his compassion for the poorest of the poor and compelling need to change, to constantly change the situation so that everybody could at least live a decent life. So I have chosen some passages from his writings to illustrate these attributes and how they contribute to the current discourse. So firstly, what do we see as the current discourse? The world and all of us are struggling with the technological revolution of the present and and compared to the aftermath of the Industrial Revolution. Somebody spoke about the AI and its consequences. Will the aftermath now be the same as during the era of Charles Dickens? That's the question we ask. And are we not seeing the polarization between the wealthy and the poverty-stricken masses, as Dickens saw it a few centuries ago? Are we not seeing the world with the same colored vision that poverty is here to stay and we can do little to change the scenario? So we are seeing, for instance, those who are able to spend thousands of dollars on a classy meal in space or on a ship or in a classy setting, while millions around the world die of malnutrition or are forced to look for leftovers in the bin. That is the discrepancy that we face. And Howard felt that we can change. And yes, if we all put our shoulders to the wheel, we can bring about those changes. As Dickens has described, are we not seeing today a dehumanization of humanity? Life today is of little consequence. People are killed to get access to a cell phone. Our history has shown us that when societies are so polarized, violence and crime increases. Unhappiness and social discontent and trauma increases. And it leads eventually to civil unrest and wars that we see. Howard constantly pointed out that as we study nonviolence and how nonviolent action can bring about social, economic, and political change, it is important to look at the root of violent behavior and address those issues of our social and economic systems that lead to unhappiness, unrest, and violence. Gandhi called this a constructive program. We have seen throughout history that enforcing peace without dealing with the causes does not lead to a peaceful society. We can build higher fences, security networks, bigger prisons, more police and army, more weapons and more dangerous weapons, but does that really lead to sustainable peace? These were questions that Howard posed and looked for answers to them. Howard wrote, and I want to quote, "A key purpose of this book is to contribute to rebuilding not only economic theory, but also the basic social structure that mainstream economic theories presuppose. However, this effort begs for sympathy. The words available to us as building materials denote essentially contested concepts. They are words with long histories marked by socially violent and academically convoluted confrontations. We therefore find ourselves in a distressing situation, not unlike that of seasick passengers in Neurath's boat. And he quotes this story, and I think it's a very beautiful way to describe what's happening. Otto Neurath likens scientific knowledge to a boat that must be repaired while at sea. The sailors must reconstruct the boat they are sailing on, so they can replace only one plank at a time. If they removed and replaced too many planks at once, the boat would sink. Similarly, we are constrained to work with mainstream thinking and the basic social structure as they are, even when we believe they are mistaken. Not just at a few points, but ab initio, from the beginning. That is what Howard wrote. And he goes on to say, this book does indeed propose such a strategy, and it intends to encourage readers to believe they can make a difference. The strategy, which we call unbounded organization and ethical realism. I'm glad to see Gavin here. I know Gavin has been working on that with Howard. And he said that unbounded organization and ethical realism hits the ground running by building on community development methods that already exist and are already achieving some success. So he draws lessons from what is happening on the ground, narratives of real life experiences woven into theoretic understanding. In his acceptance speech, when Howard was given the Lifetime Commitment Award of the Human Dignity and Humiliation Studies from the association in December 2021, he spoke about structural humiliation and dignified livelihoods. And he said, and I quote, "Inevitably, millions will be humiliated because they cannot perform as a human being is expected to perform. They cannot comply with normal expectations like dressing nicely, paying your bills, and supporting your children. A world where decent jobs are scarce is a win or lose world. In the ensuing conflict, racism, sexism, mass migration, prejudice against migrants, violence against truth, violence against basic civility, and violence against Mother Earth become inevitable. This is what he said in the speech. We are experiencing all these dilemmas today as our world centralizes wealth among a few and deprivation among the many. In another article, Howard revealed his strong Catholic belief when he wrote, "A virus has stopped the world in its track, a virus that had cunningly spread far and wide before the world could begin to comprehend what was to come. A virus that stilled cities, that grounded plains, that offered a silence never heard before. Empty streets, empty beaches, empty towns, empty parks, empty rivers. Humanity was to face a crisis such as never before, within living memory, and it would require more courage and resilience than anyone could possibly have imagined." He quotes the bishops of South Africa. "True reconciliation is achieved proactively," and I quote from his writing, "by forming a new society, a society based on service to others rather than the desire to dominate, a society based on sharing what one has with others rather than the selfish scramble by each for as much wealth as possible, a society in which being together as human beings is ultimately more important than any lesser group, whether it be family, nation, race, or culture." So these passages reveal his deep sense of caring and compassion for the poor.
Compassion for the
Thank
poor.
you for giving me this opportunity. I hope I didn't take too much of time, but I felt it was important to quote some of his words today for us to remember. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ela, for this wonderful tribute. And now that you mentioned Gavin Anderson, I would like actually to ask Gavin Anderson to say something, because when I was talking to some people about people who can really help us remember our friend, like everybody was saying, Gavin Anderson. So it's really a pleasure having you, Gavin. Welcome.
Thank you, George. Thank you very much, and greetings to everyone. I see many good friends on the call, and it's wonderful to be with you all. I met Catherine, like Ela, I met Howard through Catherine Odora Hoppers. She invited us, both of us, to be distinguished fellows of her chair in development education. And in the case of me and Howard, there was an instant friendship. And as Elam mentioned, he found my work around unbounded organization compelling, and we immediately started to work together. First, he shared about the Zero Hunger campaign in Brazil, and we spent a lot of time trying to see if we could launch that in South Africa. But then he became more and more interested in what I called then the organization workshop, and I call it the organizing laboratory. But it's a mechanism for very many people, hundreds of people, to work together to learn the skills of organizing on their own behalf. And Howard didn't only read about it, he came and participated in one with us, with a period of 4 weeks in Galeshewe and Kimberley, and brought an innovation that every evening he would give a seminar to the crew of the OLAB. So Howard always working with the very, distilling the very essence of what something's about and building on it, celebrating it, taking it further. We then lectured together for 10 years at the University of Cape Town, a course called Critical Conversations on Ethics, Macroeconomics, and Organizing. And, the first thing that everyone knows about Howard is that he has an absolutely comprehensive refutation of the tenets of economic liberalism. And it was very, very, it was really exciting to see these MBA students, all business people about to move into the C-suite at the peak of their career, slowly starting to realize that the sort of doctrines that they'd been taught weren't true. And Howard didn't just assert that as some people might do, shouting against it, very quietly show how they couldn't be true. This was always a wonderful, wonderful experience. And as someone said, I think Ela, his core message is that the capability that has enabled the human species to survive and thrive through many, many thousands of years is the ability to care for each other, the love and care that we have for each other. So he would talk about practically about what that meant in terms of organizational mechanisms, cooperatives, the solidarity economy. So we started to couple his core thinking around moral realism, recognizing what is happening and taking a stand on it. And the stand is really in favor of life's flourishing, in favor of all of life, with the human species a part of that. So moral realism and unbounded organizing became the way we would approach almost anything. I didn't really plan any remarks, but people have spoken about the basic cultural structures, and this was a completely new insight. We come from a country in South Africa which is very accustomed to fighting angrily against power and against privilege, but often not understanding what causes its reproduction. And Howard, in a very quiet way, spoke more radically than the most radical of our politicians here, and helped us see what we need to organize for a better world. So I'm very grateful for the years of friendship and the great enlightenment that Howard brought. George, thank you. I think I'd better stop. The emotion is overwhelming.
Thank you very much indeed, Gavin, for those kind words and inspiring thoughts. And I'm going now to ask Michael Britton, if you could say something, Michael Britton, and definitely I will ask also Lester Kurtz, so that for us in global peace, what really it means to have somebody like Howard Richards amongst us. I know we started a few years ago. I was trying to mute somebody. Sorry about that. If you could say something about that, Lester. But Michael Britton, would you like to share a few words? Michael Britton, if you hear us, if you could say a few words.
He says he can't unmute.
He says he can't unmute.
Oh.
Can you help with that, George?
Okay, let me see where he is.
I think you have to unmute him.
Yes, I would do that. And
He might have to click on OK for the recording.
right. Okay. Ask to unmute. I think we will figure that out soon. If you don't mind, if I may turn to Lester, please, to say a few words.
Hi, it's great to be with this wonderful community to celebrate Howard Richards' incredible contributions to our thinking. And I haven't prepared anything, but the thing that really struck me, and a couple of things about Howard's work is first of all, he goes right to the core. You know, you don't have to be an orthodox Marxist to understand the importance of the economy in terms of everything we do, right? And all of our efforts to bring about peace and justice. And so Howard focused on that, but not as like an Adam Smith economist, but someone who really brought together our desires for peace and justice with the field of economics. And the second thing I was thinking is like Peter Barris's story about this sort of local level involvement and engagement with his broad economic theories, right? Because he really combined the sort of theory and praxis, local and global. And I posted earlier in the chat a copy of an email that he had written, and I'm not sure how I ended up with it. It wasn't personally to me; it was to some group. But I had put it in a Word document and had my students read it. I still do. It was a memo from Chile, and what he did in that email, which probably doesn't appear in any of his published works, but I found it so fascinating, is that he took some remarks that were being made by this local community council. He was on this board of directors of a local community council in Chile, and which was not surprising, right? He was right there in the grassroots, working away to implement the kinds of global theories that he was telling us about. And so he had taken these comments from people in the village council about problems with youth unemployment and so on and so forth, the sort of problems of the community, and placing them in this broader context and trying to figure out how to solve them by seeing the local problems in the context of this large economic structure. I was trying to go back to my comments that I posted earlier so I can finish by quoting him. He says, human action in the culture of the dominant global economy today is organized by commodity exchange and fueled to an important extent by profit-seeking accumulation. The historical source of the normative framework now governing commodity exchange and profit-seeking is Roman law. So it says both time and space, local and global, he brings it all together and focuses on these really central problems of our action, human action, being dominated by commodity exchange and the pursuit of profit. And I think those are important ways of thinking about how to move forward.
Thank you so much.
Anything I might have taken too long.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, there is always time, especially here in Africa. Thank you, Lester, for the kind words. Yeah, it's somebody said that Europeans have watches, Africans have time. So yeah, anyway, thank you so much. And can we, now somebody if wants to say something may actually raise their hand or put your question in chat. Yes, I can see Recolonizing Africa by Mariam Kurtz. That's Peter Barras is showing us a fascinating book. I think it's important that we have copies as well. And now, Donna Pido, please, welcome.
Thank you. I just want to add something that is unrelated, but to add to what Lester just said, that you were talking about something and getting profit. Here in East Africa, we keep trying to implement the European-based theories of capitalism and communism that are geared toward the manipulation of surplus. But in this region, the production of surplus on a sustained basis is impossible. So, and I don't know how, because I don't know anything about Howard. I'm so sorry. When we're talking about applying models and paradigms, we have to consider that the application of paradigms from one part of the world to another part of the world doesn't always work. Lester, I see you shaking your head. Thank you. But that's all I have to say. It's just, and I'm sure he was a terrific guy in every, oh, there's one other thing. Peter, you mentioned that you don't have a PhD. You do, but yours is between your ears. Mine is out on paper. And what I learned from it, and I'm sure others will support me in this, by the time you finish your PhD, what you have learned is that you know nothing. My fellow members of the embroidery, yes, Janet, my fellow members of the Embroiderers Guild and the Quilt Guild here in Kenya think I'm some kind of a goddess because I have a doctorate and I'm a professor. But they are smarter than I am and they have greater knowledge. Ila, I see you smiling because you know this, okay? We're not the only ones who do. Nothing gets you a doctorate. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Donna. And now Catherine Hoppers, please. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so pleased to attend on remembering and honoring Richard, because Richard was one of the 45 distinguished fellows attached to my chair in South Africa, the chair in development education. And we wrote a book together. It is called Rethinking Thinking, Modernity's Other, and the Transformation of the Academy. It is only 80 pages, so 89 pages, but inside it, you must read it. Eh? Now, Howard wrote to me many letters, but here I'm going to read to you 2 letters. So the intimacy, intellectual intimacy that we develop over time. Can I share my screen?
Yes, you can, Catherine. Go ahead.
Okay. Now you can see. Can can you read it? Maybe I will just point to the most important things. As was writing to me, as a fellow, I had asked all my fellows to write to me what they thought of me, my chair, and my chair in Africa and in the world. And it is just one page.
So I'm sorry that the connection is not that great, Catherine.
Describing himself, his credentials, and so on. It starts from here. What the Sachi chair has meant for me, world. It is a center for better distinguished scholars. Oh.
Yeah, sorry, the connection was not that great. Thank you for sharing, Catherine. You may actually send me, if you wish, that copy so that I can also distribute to others who are on this call. You are muted, Catherine, so I can't hear you. I hope you are saying yes to sharing the document.
Can I stop now?
Okay, thank you. I was asking whether you could share that document with us so that we can also distribute it widely. So thank you so much for your tribute, Catherine Hoppers. And now, anybody else with a comment? I saw actually a question in chat, and I would like to go to it. There was a question. Maybe somebody who wrote it can also speak it up. So this is Global Peace Studies for Sustainable Development in Africa. And we are paying tribute to our friend, our colleague, family member, intellectual Howard Richards. Deanna, please, welcome, Deanna. Oh, we can't hear you. I think the great.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thanks. I don't have many other words that it has been said yet, but I really feel that I'm honored to have known Howard Richards and have shared so many moments and talkings and interviews that I think that we have the commitment with his legacy. So we have to go on and go further to show what he has done, and which, oh, I don't have so many words because I miss him as everyone else. I really appreciate the moment of this event so we can share our thoughts and how grateful we are about knowing him. So thanks, George, and thanks everyone for your words.
Thank you so much, Deanna. Thank you. Hippolyte, please, and then we go to Richard. Hippolyte, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, George. My question is actually prompted by the contributions that Gavin and Donna were making, which underscored George's, Howard's approach to be unconventional in his thinking. And so my question was, how did he deal with the conventional orthodoxy of the West, which equates human development to democracy and free market economies, How did he deal with that? Because as Donna was saying, in our African context, some of those things just don't work, and yet we are asked to, that's the way to go. You are being told that is the way to go. You must have democracy. Democracy must come with free market economy and so forth and so on, and basically take the community out of it and make profits the only object for human activity. So I was wondering if Howard and you all who worked with him had a way of dealing with this situation, and how can that help us in Africa to kind of stand up against those dominant theories that are actually making us suffer in the.
Right, that's a question from Hippolyte, and I don't know who would like to respond to it or say something about it. Maybe as we think about it, I would like to ask Richard, and then we'll go back to that question so that maybe we get a better answer, Hippolyte. Yeah, Richard, please.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Mutalam. I think I'm beginning to notice something with the aged. This morning, my mother made a short comment on an issue, and then let's see if I was a bit quick in temper. Later, did I realize that she was actually on my side, and that if I had not control, I would have lost something good that she has for me. So it seems youth in these days are not cannot perceive who aged are. And this is really killing them, actually, little by little, putting them, sending them to the grave. I want to see if we can have certain policy or maybe certain subjects that can treat youth properly, so that they can listen to the aged words. Usually, we don't see them properly. We think we are more at times above them, and little of our insubordinates try to put them thinking. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Yeah, would somebody want to respond to Hippolyte's question on Howard Richard's views on the current situation in Africa, particularly the understanding of democracy, which in the Western views is equated with free market democracy, economy, etc.
I could come in with a start to that.
Please.
So I think the first thing is that Howard systematically examined all the propositions of liberal economics, starting right from the time of Adam Smith, going through Walras, through a kind of really detailed history of the development of the ideas, and showing how this economics does not work, does not bring a world where there's full employment, that in fact is inexorably leads to inequality. So in very simple ways. So he would show, for instance, that there's the idea that for every seller there's a buyer is just not true. So people with their labor power to sell does not mean that there's someone else going to buy it. He would do very easy, almost arithmetic in the class to show people that it wouldn't work. So I think the first thing was to show how the classical formulae don't work. And he then, of course, moved to discuss the contributions of John Maynard Keynes, or Keynes, who showed that the key issues of the day, that unemployment and the depression, the Great Depression, were an inevitable consequence of the economic models, and then explored in great detail how Keynesian ideas started to rejuvenate the economy. But he wasn't a kind of romantic. So Johannes Swanger, who was here with us earlier, and he wrote a book on the dilemmas of social democracies, where they looked at what had happened, for instance, in Sweden, which we all, growing up in Africa, we always saw the Scandinavian countries as offering a path forward. And he started to look at why that failed. So he wasn't an ideologue who took a position and just argued it. Not at all. He examined carefully what was happening, what failed, what didn't fail. So similarly with the idea of we have political democracy without an economic democracy. And he was able to show that. And so not taken in at all by any of the kind of assertions made by some of the international financial institutions, the World Bank and the IMF. He would examine them and see what they did, and show that actually this is, for the first time in my life working with Howard, I started to see that the economic prescriptions that are given us are actually ideology. They're just a story that gets made up, and there's very little to back them up. But they continue to be asserted. So I think Howard's method was always the quiet, intellectual, very, very rigorous, meticulous in exploring the data, showing why this didn't work. Not, yeah, I hope that's good enough. No.
Thank you so much, Gavin. And maybe somebody else would like to add something to that.
Can I add something?
Yes, please, Catherine, go ahead.
Sorry, the technology interrupted me because I had things to share, very, very intimate. But anyway, you can read it, but I thought I would share it, but now it is over. So with Richards, we set ourselves to transform science, transform economics and law. And this is what is in this book, Rethinking Thinking. Because science, economics, and law make the world go round, of course. It makes the world go round, and its destination is to hell, because they form a very tight-knit bond. And if science fails you, you try to complain. They say they tell you it is not legal enough. If law fails you and you try to complain about it, they tell you it is not economic enough. If economic enough, you get it. So we set ourselves to disentangle this, can you hear me? These three fields. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
we can hear you.
So we disentangled them and brought them together again in such a way that they could enlarge their almost their table. I mean, a transformation by enlargement. It means that the banquet table must be open, must be enlarged, so that what modernity left out is brought in. That is was our message through and through, and it became part of strategic text for universities in South Africa and elsewhere. The meticulous analysis that we brought out in these 80 pages. I think if Howard was alive now, he would be very, very, very proud. And I promise I will keep on. I will keep on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine. That's really wonderful and yeah, encouraging for sure. So you mentioned science, economics, and law, that they need to be disentangled and then let's connect them again with real life situations. Any other comment or question?
Hello. Hello.
Yes, I can see Peter.
Okay, so
no, I'm not in a hurry. I wanted to remark that we are hoping to publish Letters from Quebec, this wonderful book of Howard's that went out of print. I just found a copy. It's at Goddard College, but they're closing their doors, like so many small colleges. In that book, Howard makes a very deep and thorough argument about Immanuel Kant. And because Kant's ideas were set in stone and became the cultural structure that requires that we satisfy investors before anything can be done. I just wanted to put that in, and look for the book because we will get it out somehow.
Thank you so much, Peter. Richard, yes, you have a point to make.
yeah, I'm sorry. I was about to thank you that the letter that I posted to you, you reached this, reached. That is what I want to say. And then I think I think in the WhatsApp platform too. I think I saw about Howard there. There was something like Professor Richard is no more. So I thought it's my name. I thought it was my name. Anyway, I wanted us to laugh over it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. Richard is actually referring to, well, he sent a letter, but this is about the registration for the conference in Tanzania, which we are organizing, and in May. You are not yet late. Please feel free to register and even prepare your own presentation. It will be lovely really seeing you in Tanzania, or actually being with you online. So thank you so much, Richard. Yes, your letter arrived. Well, so
thank you.
Great, great. I don't seem to see another hand, or maybe there is a question in chat. Just a moment. Linda, please. Linda, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, George. I just want to say, I'm so grateful that you brought us all together to see, not only to learn more about Howard's work, but to be connected with all the people that are taking his words and his work out in the world. And I want to invite all of you to keep together in whatever way you can to do this work, because it's truly, as Catherine pointed out, changing. It's a great change in thinking about how we engage in a way that provides for the dignified livelihoods of all people on this planet. So I'm, on behalf of the Human Dignity Humiliation Studies community and the World Dignity University, just saying that we are committed to carry his vision of a world out into the work that we do. And we want to stay connected to all of you who are doing the same, because Howard means so much to us. So thanks to all of you who are doing this work for dignity, because it's a dignity economy, and that is the economy of love. So thank you so much, George, for making this gathering possible to remember Howard.
Thank you. It's a pleasure having you, because it's you who make us, come together, without speakers, without participants, our work wouldn't, be there. So we are grateful to everybody who is here. And I know some, of course, cannot make it for various reasons. We are meeting every Wednesday. Not everybody can find the time to do so. We are so grateful for your generosity. And we are going to meet every Wednesday, actually, throughout the year, God willing. And so maybe, I don't know, I should maybe again ask Peter, because, of course, Howard Richards introduced you to Global Peace Studies for Sustainable Development in Africa. And what's really amazing about Peter has been always with us ever since. And this is really amazing. And he is also helping us also with the recording. And so maybe, sorry, I can... if you could say a few words about Global Peace Studies, or this network, and the kind of the ripple effect it has, and now that we are united, as also Linda put it, we are all united by our common, should I say, faith in peace building and sustainable development. Maybe Peter, you'd like to say something about that.
Oh, goodness. I would indeed love to, if I could do it justice. This has been a series of so many conversations with global reach, and yet participating, we find people from every walk of life. And it's particularly unique in my experience that people are allowed to say what they really are thinking. Now, there's this phrase in letters from Quebec, which is might be better if you would give up trying to say what you really think and just say what you think. So that's something that character in letters from Quebec comes out with. It just had me laughing. I really think, George, that it is because of you. Dr. George Putalemwa is an amazing listener. Listening is an active, it's an act. It's a creative act. It makes all the difference when you speak who it is you think you're speaking to. I can say things to George that would never occur to me to say otherwise. It's a space between us out here where my internal state of how do I look, do I look stupid? That all goes away. And out here is life, is living life in the moment. It's only there when it's there. And George, your creativity in this regard is absolutely wonderful. And you do it with elegance and you do it with silence. I've seen very few people who have this great gift. So I thank you for this. And Howard is absolutely attracted to that very space. It is exactly how he would create life himself. So in the words of Gavin, I'm swept with emotion, and I thank you from my heart.
Thank you so much, Peter, for the kind words. And yeah, I can also say it's because of you that we are here, because each one of us is unique, is talented in their own ways. For us here in Africa, we really, and I think maybe this is maybe a cliche, but we have great respect for elders, you know, people like Howard Richards, etc., etc. You know, we hold them in high regard. And for us, inviting them to come to join us, and they say yes, without any, questions or complaints, for us it's enriching. So it's really an enriching experience having you all. And we are going definitely to continue inviting you to our program. It's your views, your thoughts, your openness, your kindness. And as somebody put it, that kindness is the highest form of intelligence. We've got so many kind people amongst us, and we really appreciate that. And when I started inviting invitations and was saying that we respect each one's dignity, I hadn't actually thought of Howard Richards. But later on, of course, I could say, oh, so we are speaking the same language. And Howard Richards also told me, I could see that was often whenever he wrote to me emails, he will end up with peace and good. And I was like, peace and good. This has got actually its origin, as far as I know it, from the Franciscan group, St. Francis of Assisi, who used to say peace and good. That was the greeting of the Franciscans. And so I realized that Howard Richards was also a Franciscan, so-called lay. Now, some people here are saying we don't need titles. We used to call him Professor Howard Richards, and we no longer say that very, very loudly because for him, simplicity is the key. And in fact, during the presentation that Ella and Howard gave, they had like 6 pillars of peace, and one of them was simplicity. And for me, simplicity comes really also clearly enough from St. Francis of Assisi. And for somebody who doesn't know about him, can of course read about this man who was also very special. So I could see that this connection. So myself also had some training in the Franciscan life and thought. So I could see that we had some things in common with Howard Richards. So I also terribly miss him for sure. We are about to, well, we still have some 10 minutes. Maybe somebody else has got a word for us. Chief Stewart, would you like to say something?
Yeah,
yes,
I'm not, do you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Oh, great, great, great. So I am a pop-in, and a pop-in is like a bird that goes across continents. And I caught wind of you through an organization in the United States called the Fellowship of Reconciliation, which is part of a larger group of international fellowships of reconciliation. They're primarily interested in not fighting. And that's where I started. And now I'm trying to shift. Oh, sorry.
Please go ahead, Chief Stewart.
Yeah, so just a couple more words. What I'm trying to bring together is what we used to call peace and love. That was a phrase from the 60s. But I kind of still think that we have a ways to go to take the peace efforts and transform them into love efforts. And it sounds like Howard Richard was on that path. I didn't know his name before this call, and I'm happy to learn about him, and I'm extremely happy to learn about this group that you've got, and I hope to return on future Wednesdays.
Thank you so much, Chief Stewart. We are looking forward to having you again. And Lester, would you like to say something? Or and then I'll go to Hafiz Sufianu.
Yeah,
Lester,
since we
please.
have a bit of time, I'd like to tell a quick story about Ela Gandhi that I think is in the spirit of Howard Richards. So we were at a conference on the contributions of religion to a culture of peace that UNESCO had put together in Granada, Spain, like 25 years ago. And we went to the Alhambra, which is this beautiful, this magnificent structure, that's been there for hundreds of years, back and forth between Muslim and Christian because of various conquerings. And we were walking through this structure, and Ela came up beside me, and I made some sort of inane comment about the beauty of the architecture. And Ela said, when I see something like this, I always think about who built it. So when we stopped at our next stop, and I asked, the guide said, "Do you have any questions?" I said, "Can you tell us something about the construction of this building? Who built it?" And she said, "Oh, it was mostly built by slaves." And this is the kind of insight that Ela Gandhi and Howard Richard had, and this is the legacy of those elders that we so value. And one more little postscript to the story. I was in Vienna with Greg Mason. We were spending the weekend in Vienna, coming from the European Peace University, and we were walking around, sort of admiring the architecture of Vienna, the grand city of Vienna. And so I told him this story about Ela Gandhi and the Alhambra. When we got back to the university, he translated a poem from Bertolt Brecht, and I'll put it in the chat. It's really beautiful. It's called "Questions from a Worker While Reading," and it starts out: "Who built the city of Thebes with its 7 gates? The names of the kings are there in the books. Did the kings drag the blocks of stones by themselves? Did the Great Wall of China go? Where did the masons who built the Great Wall of China go in the evenings?" And there's this series of those kinds of questions in the poem, which I think are really in the spirit of what Howard Richards contributed to us.
That's lovely. Thank you so much, Lester, for those kind words. And now may I turn to Mr. Hafiz Sufianu.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for honoring one of our noble member, that he is always persistent and always trying to attend irrespective of the condition that he found himself, even on the sick bed. He will still try to attend the Global Peace Studies Zoom meeting. So this is kind of someone that we like to emulate in terms of academic excellence. Because if you look at Thales, what makes Thales stand out as a philosopher is not as if it has a particular book that he wrote, but Howard Richard is not only a scholar, but a critical and constructive-minded person that asks and raises a kind of question that will restructure your writing for you. So I just want to make that remark on his contribution to Global Peace Studies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Afiz. And Afiz is also doing philosophy, doing his PhD in Nigeria. I suppose that's where you are doing it from.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yes. And I'm sure that Howard Richard's writings will definitely inspire you as it inspires all of us. Yeah. And yeah, thank you so much, Afiz, for your contribution and for your persistence. Okay, great. Wonderful. And Peter, please.
Just quickly, Lester mentioned the question of who built it. When I was young, I moved to Northern Virginia, and they had these stone walls that are made of a very jagged stone, and they were precisely fitted and straight and beautiful. And I asked somebody about this because I was working for a stonemason at the time. And they said they were built by enslaved people working by the light of bonfires around the clock until they dropped dead. And the body would just be thrown in the fire and they would put somebody else to work. And I never forgot this, because you can't force people to produce perfection and beauty like that. It has to come from them. And I can't, we can hold two ideas in the same brain that are like oil and water, And I'll just never forget that.
Thank you very much indeed, Peter. And we are about to close this session for today. I really thank you very much indeed for your participation, for paying worthy tributes to our friend and colleague, Howard Richards. I'm just so grateful to people who led us in paying the tributes. And of course, here I must remember definitely, although I cannot mention everybody, but Linda, for sure, you've done a great job. Janet and Ella and Lester and Gavin, and all of you for your comments and contributions. We really look forward to seeing you again, because of course we have lost one speaker and we would like to continue with the conversations. So please, if you feel like sharing with us a thought on peace building and sustainable development, please just send me an email, and I'll be honored and grateful to welcome you, to invite you to give us a talk. So thank you very much indeed, and all the best.
Boo-boo.
Great.
I'm gonna head out.
Very
Thank you
good.
very much. It could be, you said between 10:30, 10:20, 10:35. Let's see out there a few minutes, but I want to put something in the car.
So good to see everyone, and let us meet here again. And people who didn't say so much today, for example, Diana and, many others, Catherine, and, many others. Let us have please be in touch with George. And so that you may also share your experiences, not only about Howard Richards, but peace, development, and how things
Very
are
good.
built.
Have a great time.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you so much, Janet.
Hi, Lester.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.